I'm going to make this video in English. Yesterday's condescending display by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance toward Ukrainian President Zelensky should be a wake-up call to all, not just for Ukraine, but for the world, and particularly for Canada. What we witnessed was not just a moment of political posturing. It was an explicit confirmation that the United States, under Trump's influence, has abandoned the principle of integrity, trust, and solidarity that once made it a reliable ally. The sheer arrogance and dismissiveness of Trump and Vance encapsulate a growing and dangerous shift in American ideology, one that prioritizes brute strength over democracy, bully over allies, and self-interest over global stability. The minions of Trump, emboldened by his rhetoric, are nothing more than ideological enforcers of an America First doctrine that is neither new nor particularly subtle. It is the return of an age-old belief that power alone dictates righteousness. J.D. Vance's combative attitude during his interaction with Zelensky was a perfect display of the entitled, condescending superiority complex that has plagued American foreign policy for decades. With the swagger of a man who thinks his country is doing the world a favor just by existing, then seems offended that Ukraine hasn't thrown itself at America's feet in eternal gratitude. According to him, the U.S. has given Ukraine everything, and Ukraine has apparently given nothing in return. One might wonder what exactly Vance thinks Ukraine should be giving in return. Perhaps a thank you card signed by every Ukrainian refugee, or a trophy engraved with, "To America, Savior of the Free World." Never mind, thousands of Ukrainians live sacrificed on the battlefield, the destruction of cities, or the fact that Ukraine is fighting a war that helps prevent further Russian aggression against NATO allies. But in Vance's world, it is not about facts. It is about ensuring that American superiority remains unquestioned. He embodies the all too familiar brand of white American entitlement that assures the world owes them endless gratitude while they lecture others on how to behave. The America that once stood for democracy and human rights on the global stage is now an erratic force, driven by internal division, authoritarian impulses, and a shocking disregard for its internal commitments. Allies are abandoned, adversaries are emboldened, and principle are bartered away for political convenience. The United States, under the sway of Trump and his enablers, is no longer a country that can be trusted to stand by its friends in times of need. For far too long, Canada has relied on its proximity to the United States as a strategic advantage, assuming that a shared border meant shared values and shared interests. That assumption is no longer holds. Canada is in danger, not just from American economic and political pressures, but from every real possibility of being absorbed into a more aggressive, nationalist, and self-serving America. We cannot afford to be naive. If Canada wants to preserve its sovereignty, its values, and its role in the global community, it must start forging new alliances. Europe, and more specifically, the European Union, offers a more stable, principled, and cooperative partnership. Canada should begin serious discussion about joining the EU, or at the very least, strengthening its ties with European nations that still respect the rule of law, diplomacy, and multilateralism. The ideological shift in the US is not just about foreign policy. It is also deeply rooted in the rise of a religious right that weaponized faith for political gain. These forces are not interested in democracy or global cooperation. They are interested in control. They have turned their backs on their supposed moral obligations to support the oppressed and now stand with authoritarianism, greed, and isolationism. I have some American friends who are conservative Christian pastors, and their responses to concerns about the U.S. losing credibility reflects a deep entrenchment in faith-based nationalism. Instead of acknowledging the U.S. declining reputation among allies, they focus on the unwavering commitment to their Christian identity, believing that leaders like Trump and Vance are fulfilling God's will. But what does faith in Jesus Christ have to do with allowing Russia to conquer another freely elected country? If what the U.S. is doing translated to doing God's will, does it mean Russia's aggression is also doing God's work? How can someone call themselves a Christian pastor can be proud of such political leaders? I do not believe making the world a safer place from Russian aggression can be done with business deals. While the U.S. disengages from his allies, Russia watches with satisfaction. Moscow does not need to win a military victory in Ukraine if the West fractures on its own. Every sign of American weakness and unreliability is a gift to Putin, who has long sought to divide and conquer, and Trump, whether knowing it or not, is doing exactly what the Kremlin desires. Canada must recognize that the world has changed. The United States is no longer a dependable partner. It is a nation consumed by internal strife, arrogance, and a growing disregard for the global order it once helped create. Canada cannot wait for the U.S. to find its way back. It must take control of its own destiny. The time to act is now. Canada must look to Europe, invest in new alliances, and protect itself from the coming storm. The days of blind faith in the United States are over. The question is, will Canada recognize the danger in time?